today we are playing the bookish version of something called Snog, Marry, Avoid, which is a game kids play in schools, at least in the UK. I don't know if it's a thing anywhere else. If it is, let me know. But this version is, like I said, the bookish version, so it's reread, rewrite or burn. Not literally. It's been around on BookTube for a really long time. I have absolutely no idea who the original creator of this challenge is, but I got the inspiration to do this from the channel Books with Emily Fox. So I will leave that linked somewhere. And in this Winnie the Pooh mug, I have a whole lot of books on little bits of paper, all mixed up. Basically, I've done a little thingy for every single book I've read this year. And I'm going to pick 3, and I have to pick which of those 3 books I'm going to reread, rewrite, or burn. Again, not literally. So, I've read like 57 books this year, so I'm not going to do all of them. We'd be here all year. But we're going to dive right in. So 1, 2, and 3. Ugh, I feel nervous. Okay. So we have The Way of Kings. Oh God, I feel stressed already. Fire and Heist. The Way of Kings is by Brandon Sanderson. Fire and Heist is by Sarah Beth Durst. And Maid Sama, which is by Hiro Fujiwara, which is manga. Okay, I literally just reread The Way of Kings, like just finished it 2 days ago, but I have to reread The Way of Kings. I couldn't possibly either rewrite or burn it. I just love that book so much. And then we have Fire and Heist and Maid Sama. Maid Sama is really cute and I really enjoyed it. Fire and Heist was fun but nothing special, and there feels like something poetic about burning a book that's about wyverns, which are like were-dragons. So purely for the symbolism, I think I'm going to burn Fire and Heist, not because I dislike the book but just, you know. And Maid Sama, I have absolutely no idea what I'm rewriting. Maybe I'm just more. I'm rewriting it as a book instead of a manga, even though the manga's really cute, but I don't know. Let me know if you agree, if you've read these. 1, 2, 3. Shadow of the Fox by Julie Kagawa. Flying Witch by Chihiro Ishizuka, that's another manga. And The Final Empire by Brandon Sanderson. Holy moly. Whew, okay. Okay, so I read Shadow of the Fox recently, and I feel like even though I really enjoyed it, I could have enjoyed it more because I wasn't in the best reading headspace at the time that I read it. So I am going to reread Shadow of the Fox, partially because I don't want to just reread everything Brandon Sanderson, because that would be really boring for all of you, because that's clearly what I'd actually do. The Final Empire, I would rewrite it to include more of the battle scenes because I love those, and even though there were a decent amount, I would never say no to more. And I guess I'm burning The Flying Witch, which is kind of sad because it's kind of a cute story, but it's a manga, so there's loads of volumes and I'm only burning 1. So I guess that's okay. I don't know. 1, 2, and 3. We have The Fate of the Tearling, which is the last book in the Queen of the Tearling trilogy. To All the Boys I've Loved Before by Jenny Han. The Fate of the Tearling is by Erica Johansson. And The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers, which I also read recently, and I'm 100% rereading that one. It's it was amazing and I want to reread it at some point anyway. And honestly, it was just incredible. It's a sci-fi book, but it's just so much more than a traveling sci-fi book. It's like an exploration of humanity and interpeople relations, and it's an excellent book. I think I would burn The Fate of the Tearling because the ending really frustrated me, and I would rewrite To All the Boys I've Loved Before to remove all of the really annoying parts where our protagonist defers to the men in her life, because that was the one big thing in that book that I really was not a fan of. Let's go again. 1, 2 and 3. So we have Orange by, this is another manga, I can't ever remember the names of the manga authors, Ichigo Takano, Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson, and Illumine by Jay Kristoff and Amy Kaufman. This is difficult. This is very, very difficult. Okay, I'm going to reread Orange because I absolutely loved it. This, again, like I said, it's a manga which I read earlier in the year, and I feel like it had a really profound impact on my mental health. So I really appreciated it, and I really want to reread it and experience that again. So definitely rereading Orange. I think I'm rewriting Warbreaker because, well, I can't burn it. So there's that. But mostly because I preferred the character of Siri to the character of Vivenna, and we spend a lot more time with Vivenna than we spend with Siri, so I would rewrite it so we spend more time with Siri because I really enjoyed her character and I wanted more of her. So I guess I'm burning Illumine, which sucks because I just read it recently and I really liked it. But by process of elimination, it's got to be Illumine. That's really sad. I don't like this game anymore. 1, 2, 3. Okay, let's see. What have we got? A Curse So Dark and Lonely by Bridget Kemmer, Shadow and Bone by Lee Bardugo, and Foundry Side by Robert Jackson Bennett. Okay, I'm definitely rereading Foundry Side. This was an epic fantasy series that, book, because there's only one book out so far. It's going to be a trilogy. I heard about it towards the end of last year, and it's a new epic fantasy. It's amazing. The storyline is great, the characters are wonderful, the writing is really good, the pacing is fantastic. I just all around loved that book, and I don't think I'd change a single thing about it apart from the fact that book 2 should be out now, you know? I need it now. So that leaves Shadow and Bone and A Curse So Dark and Lonely. A Curse So Dark and Lonely is a Beauty and the Beast retelling, which I read fairly recently, and in fact I read both of these as part of the magical readathon in April. So, and Shadow and Bone is the first book in the Grishaverse or Grishaverse? I've heard it both ways, don't know. Anyway, I enjoyed both of them. I have no major complaints about both of them. Were they amazing, fantastic, wonderful? No. Were they really fun, enjoyable reads? Yeah, they were. And they're both first books in, well, Shadow and Bone is the first book in a trilogy, but that's part of a wider universe of books. And A Curse So Dark and Lonely is the first book in a trilogy, but it's the only one that's out so far. And I don't know what I'd rewrite about either of them either. This is very difficult. I guess I liked A Curse So Dark and Lonely very slightly better. But there's nothing I would rewrite about it because I feel like it was really well written, whereas Shadow and Bone is a little bit older now, so it could be rewritten to be modernised a little bit, so I guess I'm going to have to do that. So I'm rewriting Shadow and Bone and burning A Curse So Dark and Lonely. This game is hard. 3. Okay. Eragon by Christopher Paolini, Mirage by Samaya Dowd, and Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. Ooh, okay. I would reread Mirage. I read that super recently too, but again, during not peak reading state of mind, and I still really enjoyed it, and I got something particular out of it by reading it in that state of mind, which was this relaxation, but I think I'd like to re-experience it when I'm in more of a reading state of mind. So I'm rereading Mirage. There's a lot of people don't like Throne of Glass, okay? And it is very tropey, and the main character is very slightly annoying, and I see what people's issues are. I don't personally have those issues. I think it's fun. Yes, it's problematic, but that doesn't really bother me. So I think I'm going to rewrite Throne of Glass to make it a little bit less hated, maybe? I mean, I probably wouldn't have the skill to do that, but, you know, this is all in theory, isn't it? So we're not actually burning or rewriting anything, but the rereading may happen. Eragon is being burned as a result, which, that's 2 dragon books that I've burned now, so you may be thinking, she doesn't like dragon books. No, that's not true. I love dragon books, so, you know. Oh well. This is going to be a difficult round. The Hero of Ages by Brandon Sanderson. The Invisible Library by Genevieve Cogman. And Nevernight by J. Christoph. Actually, not as difficult as I was expecting. The Invisible Library was fun, but I bought it because it was in the fantasy section, and if you ask me, it's more of a mystery in a fantastical setting. And I might have enjoyed that if I had known that that's what I was picking up, but I didn't. I went into it thinking it was a fantasy, and really it kind of was a fantasy, but not really. It's a mystery. That's fine, but that's not what I was expecting. So I'm going to burn The Invisible Library. I'm going to reread The Hero of Ages, even though I only finished it like last month, but we're ignoring that. And I'm rewriting Nevernight. 100% I'm rewriting Nevernight because I liked the concept of that book. I have a whole review of this book on my channel, so I'll link that up wherever it goes. I could have liked Nevernight. I liked the characters, I liked the premise, I liked the world, but the writing was so frustrating. We had footnotes that were trying to be funny that weren't funny, we had footnotes doing world building which was totally unnecessary, and we had a narrator who was just a bit pretentious actually. So yeah, that round was not difficult at all. Rewriting Nevernight 100%. 1, 2, 3. The Bitter Kingdom, which is book 3 in the Girl of Fire and Thorns trilogy by Ray Carson. Glass Sword, which is book 2 in the Red Queen series by Victoria Aveyard. And To Best the Boys, which is by Mary Webber. So this is almost Battle of the Series, apart from To Best the Boys. I'm actually going to rewrite To Best the Boys, but not the actual book. I'm going to rewrite the synopsis, because the synopsis, in my opinion, and I mentioned this in my wrap-up, which I will link, wasn't a reflection of what the book is about, in my opinion. The synopsis says that it's about a girl who dresses up as a boy to enter a male-only labyrinth competition. And whilst that does happen, it's not the main point of the story. The main point of the story is a female character, protagonist, finding herself and following her dreams in a community and society that has her pigeonholed into one specific female-centric role, and her dreams don't fit into that role. That's what that book is about, and that's what the synopsis should have said. So I'm rewriting that. Then we have Glass Sword and the Bitter Kingdom, and I have to reread one and burn the other. I wrapped up Glass Sword, and I mentioned in my wrap up that the middle of that book was a little bit repetitive and frustrating, so I could equally have rewritten that to make it better, but I already said I'm rewriting To Best the Boys because I think that that's a good choice. So I think I'm burning Glass Sword because it was a bit of a drag to get through that middle section because of how repetitive and monotonous it became, which means that I'm rereading The Bitter Kingdom, which seems like a kind of strange thing to do, seeing as it's the last book in a trilogy, but I have read the first 2 books, so I guess that's okay. And I did like it. It's not like, I mean, it wasn't my favourite in the trilogy, I don't think. I think the first book was my favourite, but I guess I'm rereading that one. I might just do a couple more because I seem to have been filming for quite a long time now, and I don't want this video to be a million hours long. We have Monster, which is a graphic novel by Naoki Urasawa. The Queen of the Tearling, which is the first book in the Queen of the Tearling series by Erica Johansson, and Viper by Bex Hogan. I am rereading Viper by Bex Hogan because it was fantastic. I got a copy of it as an extra book in the Christmas Fairy Loot box. Maybe? I think? I don't know. Anyway, I got it as an extra book in the Fairy Loot box, actually at the same time as To Best the Boys, and I read it and it was amazing and I absolutely loved it, and I cannot wait for the second book to come out. So I'm definitely rereading that, probably before the second book comes out. Even though this is all theoretical, most of these rereads will happen at some point, let's be honest. So that leaves The Queen of the Tearling and Monster, and I actually really liked both of these. In Monster, I liked Volume 1 better than Volume 2 because there was more. The main character in Monster is a doctor in post-World War II Germany, and there was more medicine in Volume 1 than in Volume 2, and I really liked that. So if I was to rewrite Monster, I would just include more medicine in Volume 2. The Queen of the Tearling, I really liked it the way it was, so I don't think I'd rewrite anything. I don't really want to burn it though, because I really enjoyed it. It was probably my favourite book in the trilogy. Oh, okay. Well, by process of elimination, because I've got nothing to rewrite in The Queen of the Tearling, I have to burn that and rewrite Monster. So I'm going to have to go for another round because that's a bummer and I don't want to end on a bummer. 1, 2, 3. So we've got The Alchemist by Michael Scott, Finale by Stephanie Garber, and Priory of the Orange Tree by Samantha Shannon. Okay, interesting. I think I would rewrite Priory of the Orange Tree. And hear me out here. Lots of people are praising this book, and it is a good book, especially for people entering into the epic fantasy genre. I think it's a really great place to start in epic fantasy because it's only just epic fantasy. It's not as in-depth as Mistborn, Foundryside, The Way of Kings, etc. But it is more complex than your typical high fantasy. So it's only just epic fantasy, which means that it's great for people who are just starting out, in my opinion. But I kind of thought that it actually needed to be shorter or longer, which doesn't sound like it makes any sense. But there were some bits in the middle that seemed to go on for a little bit too long, in my opinion. I didn't think that they needed to be dragged out as much as they were. But There were some relationships that I kind of wish we'd had more time with, and their ending, for an 800 odd page book, the ending seemed a little rushed to me. So I would rewrite it to cut out those like bits that were a bit too long in the middle, add a bit more with the relationships that I liked, and drag the ending out just a smidgen more. So it may be that it ends up being the same length, might be a bit shorter, might be a bit longer. So you see what I mean? Hopefully. Which leaves Finale and The Alchemist for rereading and burning. Well, Finale I just read and I really enjoyed it, but it wasn't perhaps as satisfying as I was hoping, purely because there's a trope near the end that I wasn't a fan of, which I don't want to talk about because it's literally at the end of the last book in the trilogy, so I don't want to talk about that, and I already rewrote Priory, so I can't rewrite that bit. The Alchemist was a reread this year, and I enjoyed it. It's fun. It's a middle grade read. It's nothing, you know, amazing, but it is fun. And if you burn the first book in a series, that's a bit of a... But then if you burn the last book in a series... I think I'm going to reread Finale and burn The Alchemist, but I have no solid reasons why. This sucks. Why did I do this? Just depressing myself here. Okay, this is the last one. I am not doing any more after this because, I mean, there's virtually none left in the thing anyway, and I said at the beginning that I wasn't going to do them all. Right, The Long Walk by Stephen King, or Richard Bachman. He was writing as Richard Bachman at the time. The Quiet at the End of the World by Lauren James. And The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. This is difficult. I liked all of these books for different reasons. The Well of Ascension is the second book in the First Era Mistborn trilogy. It's very, very political, which a lot of people don't like. A lot of people say that that makes it draggy for them, but I actually loved all of the political elements in that book, so it was great. I've just reread it recently. Loved it, possibly loved it a second time even more, because there are certain things that happen. The first time you read them, you don't see them coming and they surprise you. And when I reread it, I knew what was coming and I was still surprised. I was still like, how did that happen? I don't understand. Even though I knew it was coming. Weird. Then The Quiet at the End of the World I just read recently, and it's a sci-fi about the last two young people on a planet Earth in the future where there's been an infertility crisis and reproduction on the planet has ended. So they're the last two young people, and it was just like, it really surprised me. It was so good. And then The Long Walk is a dystopian book about teenage boys who enter this competition to walk, and the last man standing wins, and the people who don't stay standing die. That one is kind of depressing, and I would rewrite it to include more about the history of the race, but I can't burn either of these two, so I'm going to have to burn The Long Walk by process of elimination. I'm rereading The Quiet at the End of the World because I just read it, really loved it. I definitely want to reread it, and I just reread The Well of Ascension, and I don't know what I'd rewrite in The Well of Ascension because I loved it, and I don't know that there's anything that I would change about it. Okay, so I think what I would do with The Well of Ascension is that there's a certain thing that happens towards the end of the book which I would change. And the reason I would change that is not because I think it was the wrong decision, but because I'd be interested to see what would happen in the final book if that thing was different. I'm not going to say what, which I realise is a bit frustrating, but it's a massive spoiler. So if you have read The Well of Ascension and you want to know what I'm talking about, then drop me a comment down below and I will reply to you with the detail of what bit I would change, just to see what the knock-on effect in The Hero of Ages would be. But I think I'm going to end this here. It was really fun and also slightly masochistic, so there's that. But I enjoyed myself, which I don't know what that says about me. There you go, side issue. If you've read any of these books and you agree or disagree with me, let me know down below. And if you do this challenge, then please drop me a comment and link to your video, because I'd love to see your version. And that's it for this one. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video and want to see more like this from me, then do think about hitting that subscribe button, and I hope to see you here again soon. Thanks. Bye.